Credits have been rolled on Black Ops 6. What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we have something a little bit different because Friday marked the release of one of the biggest games of the year, and of every year. Call of Duty. Back in the day, the annual Call of Duty release was pretty much a personal holiday for me. Every year I would pick up the November Game Informer to look at the map breakdowns and memorize these routes weeks before the new game dropped, or read up on what kind of popcorn action-packed story Infinity Ward or Treyarch were going to whip out. But now through the years, as the game changed and my gaming taste have changed, I kind of fell out of love with Call of Duty for a little while. Now don't get me wrong, I've still bought the game more years than not. I skipped Vanguard, skipped Modern Warfare 3 last year until it came to Game Pass earlier this summer, but it sometimes feels like buying them on day one has been more out of habit than anything. It's been a long time since I felt a truly deep down genuine hype for a new Call of Duty. Until Black Ops 6. And I can't really even pin down why. Like, the conversation online was more positive than I've seen it in years, the marketing was done really well, it just feels like there was a lot of build up to this year's game, and boom, here it is. How is it? It's very good. You've got the story campaign with a partial returning cast of characters from Black Ops Cold War that people really enjoyed, the return of round-based zombies, a new Omni movement system that's switching things up on the competitive multiplayer side, and beyond all of that, it just feels new and fresh. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything here, we are on launch weekend after all, but the campaign of Black Ops 6 takes place in the 90s during the Gulf War, and the CIA has been compromised, and you play as William Case Calderon, who is teaming up with the rogue Black Ops squad to find the truth and save the country from whatever kind of big bad is eating it from the inside out. And that kind of sets the stage for the ride that the campaign takes you on. And by all means, it is a popcorn action flick CoD campaign that you should expect if you've been playing the campaigns long enough, but there are some new ideas here and delivery systems thrown in that make this something very special. Compared to Modern Warfare 3, this is certainly not a wide-open, choose-your-own-adventure kind of setup with the same open combat mission concept. In fact, the majority of the time you're going to be playing more of that linear Call of Duty campaign that drove the game's single-player games to fame. But that doesn't mean that it's an always-on-the-rails shooter. In one mission in particular, you're dropped into a large open desert area that's bigger than anything from Modern Warfare 3, and you can go around collecting supply drops with things like weapons, ammo, equipment, even RCXD cars, and then you can go after main objectives and side objectives along the way. Now, you can totally mainline these without a problem if you're focused on moving the story along and aren't interested in playing around in Treyarch's little sandbox. But like the open combat missions in Modern Warfare 3, this little area opens up a ton of replay value after you finish the campaign. I could easily see you spending at least an hour or more in this mission alone, toying around with the roaming enemy squads or completing all of the collectibles. And you're not just collecting for the sake of collecting. Everything that you pick up, the weapons, the equipment, the kill streak style weaponry, all of that comes with you into the following mission that just so happens to be a more standard linear mission to switch things up. So you're scavenging for supplies to not only get stuff for that mission, but then to move on to the next mission in the story. I don't know, I thought it was an interesting idea that was a big change up from open combat missions last year. But that open combat mission DNA is sprinkled in through different campaign missions as well that are smaller in scale, like the size of a military base, where you've got to sabotage a radar, a SAM turret, and a helicopter, and you can take each of those tasks on however you want. For instance, with the radar, you can plant explosives on the disc itself, on the generator, or have a nice little chat with the guy monitoring it. And none of those really take any longer than the other, but it adds some player choice and replay value into something that could have easily been a linear mission guiding you from point A to point B, so that's a nice touch. But beyond all of that, Black Ops 6 is also a game of espionage. In a handful of missions, they dial down the action and make you blend in with crowds to find information, interrogate suspects, maybe even plant some explosives here and there. And now sure, for the person that's looking for non-stop running and gunning in their Call of Duties, that might sound like something that takes them out of the action, but that comes with the benefit of really feeling like you're part of this rogue squad investigating a corrupted government. In fact, there are moments later on in the game that deliver some of the most cinematic moments I've ever seen in a Call of Duty with how the gameplay intermingles with the storytelling, and again, I'm not trying to spoil anything here, but there's a casino level that is very, very well done. And it wouldn't be a Black Ops without some mind games, right? If you played Black Ops Cold War, the final mission of the game was basically a fever dream that revealed the meat of the underlying plot, and Black Ops 6 has more of that too. This time around, a couple of those missions are there to keep the story moving and build out the characters, but one mission in particular blends all of that with mowing down waves of enemies, sending you on a scavenger hunt, and getting deeper into the lore of your character. And afterwards, you're wondering if any of it was even real. But ultimately, all of these mission styles and their different approaches to gameplay come together in a way that complements the story itself really well. And then there's the Safehouse. Now, I can't say this is something that I felt was a core part of the gameplay, but it builds on a concept introduced in Cold War. And throughout the entire game, there's the Safehouse hub world with things like an unlockable weapon bench, equipment station, and firing range, which are actually just physical objects that represent menus. In there, you can upgrade weapons, equipment, and perks that can boost the damage you deal through the game, and you do all of that by earning cash through gameplay or finding it in levels scattered around the world. So there's a little Collecticon incentive that's kind of tossed in there as well. Like I said, I can't really say this was a make or break for my gameplay experience, and I think that I bought maybe 4 different upgrades in total and didn't really feel compelled to buy many more, but it's a nice way to add more depth and encourage people to explore the world if they're already going through searching every nook and cranny. It just rewards them a little bit more. So the big question is the campaign worth your time? And in my opinion, it absolutely is. And it's surprisingly meaty with about 8 hours of gameplay overall, but even more if you're really taking your time to scour for cash, upgrade your safe house, and dig into the more open missions. But more than anything, it's an interesting story with an entertaining cast of characters that really pulled me in more than I thought it would. I went into this year's Call of Duty campaign expecting Michael Bay explosions and a predictable story, but ended up coming out with Michael Bay explosions and a story with some really solid twists and some excitement for the future of what Treyarch does with their Black Ops storyline. And while this isn't a video focusing on the multiplayer or zombie sides of the game, I'm having some of the most fun I've had in CoD multiplayer in years. The customization just makes sense again. We've got entirely new maps at launch, and the Omni movement system makes aiming and tracking players simpler. It just feels like the game works in a way that it hasn't really worked for me in a few years. I haven't gone hands-on with the zombies mode yet, but the return of round-based zombies instead of the open world DMZ style that Modern Warfare 3 had has gotten a ton of people excited, and I've seen a couple of people online hating on it, but overwhelmingly, it seems the more people play, the more they're enjoying it, which is really nice to see. If you're on the fence about picking up this year's Call of Duty at full price to get in on the action at launch, this is one of the best games that I have ever played in the series when it comes to the campaign. And yes, I am counting the old school glory days of CoD. But beyond that, if you have Xbox Game Pass already, now it's just included in that subscription, and for that, you absolutely can't go wrong, even if you just want to dive in and give it a shot to see if it grabs you. But let me know down below, are you excited for this year's Call of Duty? Are you going to wait for a sale, play it on Game Pass, or maybe skip it entirely and enjoy something else? I would love to know your thoughts. And of course, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, you like what you see and what you hear, hit that subscribe button for videos like this every week and gaming news shorts throughout the week to keep you in the loop, and I'll catch you on the next one.